everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. If you're new to my channel, I am so glad that you found me. I am a gardener here in the middle part of Missouri. I happen to garden in a zone 6A, 6B, and that means that we are about 4 weeks to 5 weeks away from our first average frost. So for a September garden, we are in transition. We're right smack dab in the middle of September. And so I need to be thinking about what can I still harvest? What might need to come in the greenhouse, and so I can extend the season because I'm fortunate enough to have this great place here. So I'll be wanting to pull some things in, but also this gives me an opportunity to look at all these different gardening areas of my property and think about what worked well for me this year. What might I want to change next year? I learned so much, and I bet you all do too. Every gardening season is an opportunity for learning, for growing, for modifying your plans. And I know it might seem a little silly to some of you that, Belle's already thinking about 2025, but I am always thinking about the next thing. I'm trying to enjoy the moment, of course, but especially during these transition times, summer moving into fall is really a great time to grab your camera, walk around your garden, take pictures or video, and think about, what did well and how might I change things for next year? So I'm going to grab the camera and turn it around and just show you what's happening in the greenhouse. Not a lot happens in the greenhouse in summer because it's super hot in here. Most of the action's taking place outside, but I'll give you a little look at what's growing in the greenhouse, and then we're going to head into the raised bed garden. So here in the greenhouse, I've got two raised bed boxes. You can see how they're up off the floor. And this little area was just an experimental area where I put in some sugar rush pepper plants that I grew from seed, a couple in here, just to see if they would grow inside the greenhouse. And they have produced. Look at all those. I have a lot of harvesting yet to do. So I'm going to harvest a lot of peppers in the next couple of days, and I like to freeze peppers. Could not be easier, and use them throughout the year. These are a little experiment as well. These, I had a few extra leek plants, and so I tossed them here, and they're doing fine. I've never grown leeks before, but there they are. So they need to get bigger, I think. All right, as we move down here, let's take a look at this little tray. This is a tray of snapdragons. I am going to try the, what do they call it? Cool flower method. Some of you might have heard of that. Anyways, this is, let's see, two different varieties of snapdragons, Costa Silver and Cherry Bronze. You can see they've germinated fairly well. So what's going to happen is, for the cool flower method, I'm going to get these out in the garden, and they're going to overwinter, supposedly. Never tried the cool flower method. Those of you with a lot more experience than I do, please leave me comments if you have experience doing that. Here you saw in a recent video, I took some coleus cuttings, and I am try to get those to grow and root in, which they've done well. They've been in these containers for about 2 or 3 weeks. They will eventually transfer into this box. So once I harvest this pepper plant and pull, I'm going to put coleus in this raised bed, hoping that they'll grow up and just fill in and add some beauty, and try to see how long I can keep them alive in my greenhouse this fall. Over here, I have cuttings, and I showed you all this as well on a recent video. These are all geraniums, and these are my favorite Maverick geraniums. And also, let me swing around here, trying not to make you dizzy. I also repotted all of these because I've had these particular beauties in these pots for over a year. So I pulled them out. I took cuttings off of these as well and refreshed the soil, and they seem to be doing just fine. Geraniums do beautifully in a greenhouse. I mean, I had geraniums all throughout the winter. last year, all up until springtime, where I planted them outside. And then here's okay, we're gonna head out to the raised bed garden, but before we do that, I just have to turn around the camera around here and show you all my aqua pot lights. My big pots here are still doing great. I potted these up the first week of May. We are mid-September, so they've grown all of May, June, July, August, and halfway through September. I mean, goodness, 4.5 months of gorgeous beauty. So let's take stock. Next year, I will do something similar, but I'm going to go with a whole different color scheme rather than the purple and white. I think I'm going to go with, I don't know, maybe different shades of pink and white. So that's for next year. All right, let's head over here into the raised bed garden and see how things are looking here at the very end of summer into fall. Oh, nasturtiums, you know, they're my favorite. They're really great and they're doing excellent. I will be pulling some of these and potting them up, and they're going to come in my greenhouse. I grew these inside the greenhouse all winter. My tomatoes. Well, I did the method of, you know, pulling everything off of the tomatoes that are left, all the side stems and leaves, because I'm trying to get these to get a tiny bit of color. This is the Kellogg tomato. So this is all I've got left. 2, 4, 6 beautiful tomatoes, and want them to ripen a little bit so I can get them inside the house. Here's some more tower basil. You saw the basil inside the greenhouse. I've got some out here as well. This bed, oh my gosh, talk about a pepper harvest. These are truly one of my favorites growing this year. And these are the lunchbox variety of peppers. They're beautiful, sweet. They're not spicy. Little snacking peppers. I have enjoyed them so much. I will definitely put a note to myself, grow lunchbox peppers next year. Down here is where I had most other tomatoes. I had 6 plants, I think, here. They're done, so they got pulled out, and I've got a few pepper plants left. I'm just hanging on, wanting them to ripen up a little bit before I harvest everything. But this is where I'm going to put those snapdragons that I showed you earlier. So once these 2 peppers are done, the snaps are going to go in here, and I don't know. I don't hold out a lot of hope they're going to survive till next spring, summer. Supposedly, the cool flower method is a real thing, and in my zone, snapdragons are supposed to come back. So we'll try it, and I'll keep you posted. Here's something that I've shown you all. New addition this year, and that is my green stock tower garden. It did incredibly well. I've got herbs, I've got strawberries, come in here. I've got nasturtiums. Aren't those lovely? Again, I'm not going to let these die off before the frost. I'll be pulling those inside my greenhouse. Oh, there we go. Hello, pollinator. Good morning. And then I've got some more sugar rush peppers there on the bottom. Delighted to get Thumbergia this year, or black-eyed Susan vine, to grow up my trellis. This did have green beans, and then I decided to go ahead and plant this Thumbergia on either end. I mean, just look at that. Aren't those the sweetest? Sweetest. So they're really growing up there. Dahlias, you know, I think they're tired. I think I'm tired of growing these dahlias. I am going to do a complete refresh next year. I am going to purchase a whole new batch of tubers. These tubers that I planted out here are tubers that I've been carrying over for years and years and years. And I just think, I don't know, I think they're tired. And you don't see many blooms on here because I just harvested a whole bunch of flowers yesterday and made little arrangements with them. Over here, we've got some zinnias, and these are the Floret Precious Metals. I didn't like them at first, and now I must say they've grown on me. Yeah, isn't that sweet? This is really, really pale pinky apricot. My rainbow shard did great this year. I mean, it just produced and produced all season long, but it's getting a little tired. I brought you all along. I tried to sow some golden beet seeds again for a fall crop, and germination was pretty bad. So I don't know what's going to happen. We've got some green onions left and some on this end, some leeks right here. I've got chives, and they are a perennial, so I'm going to leave the chives out over winter. This is my cucumber section here, and I think my guess is they're about done. They produced a ton of cucumbers. Could not have been happier. There's a few here, but we're so late in the season. I don't know. I don't know how many more cucumbers are going to come out of that. So yeah, that's sort of how things are looking. Oh, I didn't show you this bed. My Senorita zinnia mix, one of my favorite colors. I am very, very fond of salmon, pinky salmon. Just love that. They did great. This giant plant you see here that looks like a grass, that's actually lemongrass. And so what I need to do is I need to come in here and cut way down at the base, and I cut lemongrass, clean it up, rinse it off, and all I'll be doing is freezing that, and I will use it in all kinds of Asian cooking all throughout the winter. Okay, now that we had a chance to look at the raised bed garden, some of the veggies and herbs and cut flowers, I think we'll walk up here and I'll show you the north side of the house, where I've got a whole variety of shrubs and annuals for you to look at and perennials. So this is the north side of the house, and as you can see, we've got hostas in the back. We've got Mr. Mikawa, a new Japanese maple. It's a dwarf tree. It will end up getting 8 foot tall, and it's done just fine. You can see my favorite Super Tunia Vista petunias. I've got all different varieties in there, and they're still going strong. Oh, this coleus. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, stellar. Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely gorgeous. That's called copperhead. All right, so here's where I want to take stock in what's growing and what I'm going to do differently next year. First of all, you see how gigantic, I don't know if you can see, but that's gigantic. That coleus is at least 4 foot tall and 3 foot wide. I had no clue those are 3 plants, they would get that humongous. So what I'm going to make sure I do next year, because now I can see these sad little hostas. I'm not sure what's going on. I might have to check the drip, but I've got all this space behind here. So next year I'll take coleus that gets huge, and I'm gonna plant it here in the back row, and that way it'll cover up some of this stuff that isn't as pretty, and a dark foliage like that behind the Japanese maple and some of these hostas and brunnera, I think that's going to look really good there. So that's something I learned this year. This coleus gets big. Let's put it in the back. All right. And then, of course, as we come down here, here's that coleus I was talking about. Literally humongous and gorgeous. And then here's some more coleus. There's another brunnera. And then here are my little lime punch. These are in their 2nd year or 3rd year. I cannot remember, but they're loving life here. They come out, these beautiful bloom heads at first are lime green, then a creamy white, and then a tinge of pink, and then they get darker pink, and then they get this smoky kind of pinky burgundy. Isn't that just lovely? So they're going to stay just like this. I won't be cutting them back at all until next spring. So they will add some winter interest with these beautiful bloom heads. You can see some of my Super Tunia got gobbled up, right? You see this one, how tiny it is? It was big, and then these monsters took over, but in the best possible way. So note to self for next year, I'm going to be changing up what I'm growing here. I'll put new annuals in, probably a different color scheme. And again, I'm going to try to have my coleus, the big coleus, in the back and smaller things, of course, in the front. A buddleia, sweet buddleia, butterfly bush. This is Miss Molly. I have two of them, and right now it's not covered in butterflies, but just yesterday it was so covered up in butterflies. So this east-facing bed is the bed that I am most challenged by because it holds a tremendous amount of water. When they built this house, they pushed the backfill, of course, up against the foundation. And when you dig down in this bed, you're going to dig down maybe 4 inches before you hit massive, yucky clay that is just like a swamp. I do have it on drip irrigation, but I have turned the drip off to this bed most of the summer and it's still holding water. So I have got to figure it out because I really want to make this something beautiful. And one of the things I added this year to make it beautiful are 3 Limelight Prime hydrangeas that get about 6 foot tall and 4 to 5 feet wide. They are really the foundation plants here. So I want them to do well. And this is just their first year and they're doing okay, but you know, they have this yellowing of leaves and they claim if it's in the center of the plant, it's okay. That happens in the first year. So I'm going to trust proven winners that they're going to be okay. I popped in some celosia I grew from seed. I just love this plant. Look at the foliage. Look at those red stems. And then I grew some gomphrena. This is so beautiful, but I didn't really have a great germination rate. So I'm going to really try hard next year to grow gomphrena from seed. More coleus. Look, this is gigantic. That coleus is uh, easily 4.5 foot tall. I've got 3 in that pot. I've got some diamond frost euphorbia and I've got a little bit of salvia. But I want this bed to really be full and gorgeous next year. So I've got to figure out the drainage issue for sure. One of my beautiful pots. This was one of my aquapot lights. I've got some geraniums I grew from seed, some ivy. And if you know much about fountain grass, you know this purple fountain grass is phenomenal. It will take over. It gets massive, but it is so gorgeous. And it is an annual where I live. So it will, though, stay beautiful way into frost. While some of this other stuff I'll have to pull, but it will just keep looking gorgeous for a long time. Well, let's take a look at this little bed of hostas. You can tell it's looking really awful. It's a mess because I was out here yesterday for quite a long time pulling hostas out, relocating hostas, cutting hostas back, taking cuttings to another area of the property where I've got a bunch of hostas. And so it's looking rough. But here's the method behind my madness. I had 2 hostas here. What I want to put here is something large that will cover some of that concrete and that flowers. And I have fallen in love with the Summerific series of hardy hibiscus. I'll put a picture on the screen of the one I'm hoping to get to pop in here next year. I want some color and I need something big and it'll fit beautifully in this spot. So yeah, you can see things are kind of looking rough. A lot of these hostas were all the way out here into the grass, so I cut them back. I also managed, oh, I was going to tell you, I managed when I was digging them to cut my drip line and I needed to attach that back together today. And guess what? My sweet husband was out here earlier. I didn't even know he was doing that. So he did that for me. So thank you, Alan. He's always spoiling me. And then I had a smaller variety of hosta here on the end, and I just didn't like it. It was drab. It didn't do anything for me. And so I pulled that whole thing out and split it up and relocated it. But I want to pull color next summer around here. So I want to fill this in with some color. I'm not sure if it'll be a perennial or I'll just put some annuals in here. Super Tunia Vista bubblegum, everybody knows what that is, and some beautiful spiderwort here on the point, looking pretty still 4.5 months later. I mean, unbelievable. Okay, as we go up this bed, these blank spaces are peonies. Anywhere you live, I don't care where you live, but if you are in the Midwest, peonies look beautiful in the spring for about 3 weeks. And they provide gorgeous, fragrant peony flowers that I cut and harvest and bring in and make into beautiful arrangements and bouquets. However, they look awful the rest of the year, absolutely awful. And one of the things I ended up doing a couple of 3 weeks ago is I just cut all that foliage out of there. It just looked awful, awful with disease and powdery mildew. It just is going to be that way. So don't feel bad if you grow peonies and they end up looking horrible. That is par for the course. And so I was just watching another gardener just yesterday or the day before talk about it. And she said, yeah, she's a landscape gardener for her business anyways. And she advises any of her clients to plant peonies where you don't want to see them a lot. So if you really want them, especially for their blooms, plant them in a spot that isn't high traffic. So again, I'm taking stock of what works and what doesn't work. So it is very possible next year I may dig these babies out and replace them with something that blooms off and on throughout the year and doesn't get all the nasty fungus and all of that. But Miss Molly, Miss Butterfly Bush, she's loving her spot in the garden. Coming around the front of the house that faces west. Again, I'm taking stock in thinking about how next year I really want to add some color to this space. This is sort of a redo. I've got some beautiful North Pole arborvitaes on either side of that window. And I originally thought about putting a nice rose. There's a Belinda rose, which is my name. And so I thought, oh, that would be pretty. It gets about 5 foot tall and 4 foot wide. You know, but roses don't always bloom constantly. I would love it if you all in the comments would leave a suggestion for a flowering shrub that has seasonal interest that I could place in between these two arborvitaes. I am considering another one of those summerific hardy hibiscus because some of them can get 5, 6 foot tall and 4 foot wide. I think that might be a stunner there. And then the idea here for next year is I'm going to plant around the edge here a bunch of annuals. I don't know which ones yet, just to bring some more color into this space. It needs it. Of course, here we come down the walkway. My clematis is pretty much done for the season. I just trimmed back my Gertrude Jekyll climbing roses. I'm not kidding you. They were shooting canes all the way up to the gutter. So those got topped off because those tops won't last through the winter at all. But boy, have they been beautiful and fragrant and full of blooms most of the summer. But now I think they're ready for a rest. Okay, last stop on our September walkabout is our 2-acre pollinator habitat. And while it doesn't look like much from afar, when you get up in here, it's surprising all the different species of plants that are growing. So let's just take a little drive up the pathway and I'll give you a close-up of some of the things that are growing. So let's take a look at these beautiful golden beauties. I might need to look it up and see what this is. Honestly, I don't know what this plant is, but they are gorgeous golden native plants. Any of my viewers that are experts on native species to Missouri, if you know what that is, please leave a comment below. I just think they're gorgeous. And of course, we've got plenty of varieties actually of Rudbeckia and coneflower going strong as well in little spots in the garden. Here is another beautiful plant. I'm going to get right in here. Oh yeah, there's a pollinator on it. I don't know what that is, but we have lots of that dotted throughout the pollinator habitat, and it is beautiful. So just to give you all a sense of how big this grass is, I'm 5'6", and this grass is way taller than I am. So I'm not sure if I should be concerned about this grass or not. I'm going to consult with my Department of Conservation guy who helped us plan out what we wanted to grow in our wildlife habitat. I don't want grasses taking over, but this might be a native grass and I just don't know about it. I thought I'd just do a slow little pan through where you all can see the 2 acres. And again, it's, winding down for the season. You'll see lots of yellows, golds, and whites. But what I am wanting to do for next season is I want to see more purples and pinks, native species. So I'm going to be reaching out again to my consultant with the Department of Conservation, and we're going to select some more seed that can give us those types of plants. While I love yellows and golds and creamy yellows and oranges, I want some pinks and purples and add that to the mix. Well, I think that's going to do it for this September walkabout. Here we are in the very middle of September. We've got about a week or 2 before our first official day of fall. It is a time of transition for most of us as gardeners. We are making the most of what's still growing in our gardens and thinking about and reflecting back on how we did this year. How did certain plants do? What we might want to repeat for next year and what we might want to change up for next year. And so thank you so much for supporting my channel and hanging out with me on another Garden Time with Belle adventure. And as always, I wish you happy gardening.